Embedded finance in healthcare systems deals with integrating payment, banking, lending, and insurance functionality into medical software. It gives us more control over treatment and simplifies access to healthcare services. Despite being challenging to implement, such solutions are highly beneficial to every party involved. While patients enjoy more convenient financial operations, hospitals grow revenue and can serve more patients faster.
We have today with us Mr. Gaurav Gupta, co-founder of Navia Lifecare, New Delhi. Sir is also the co-founder of Arogya Pay. Mr. Gaurav was a management consultant at SureGrow Consulting. Mr. Gaurav holds a degree in biotechnology engineering from Delhi College of Engineering and has done MBA in Finance, Strategy and Leadership from Indian School of Business, Hyderabad. Without further ado, I invite Sir to the dais to share his expertise and insights on the topic.
I would like to talk about embedded finance in healthcare. So, embedded finance is a very new field and a very new topic. So, feel free to interject, ask any questions at any point of time. Yeah, I'll just move here. Yes. So, quick introduction about myself. I'm an engineer and an MBA. Was a good student, got through IIT, a couple of other schools, went to NSIT Delhi, and then spent last 10 years in building for healthcare. I have built different technology products in healthcare ecosystem. Quickly moving on to the topic. I think all of us know about Starbucks, right? What is Starbucks? Is Starbucks a coffee company? Is it a cafe? Or is it a co-working space? We have seen people working out of Starbucks every day, spending time and using it as a co-working space. But what is it exactly? So Starbucks, very, very counterintuitively, Starbucks is it a bank? Have you ever thought about it? Is it a bank or a fintech company? And you will be amazed to know that Starbucks has more deposits than 85% of US banks. So because of this product called Rewards Card. Rewards Card is one product that enables about $1.8 billion worth of deposits at any point of time in Starbucks. On an average, about $10 billion are loaded annually on this card. So can you imagine the size of this bank? Although we never thought of Starbucks as a bank, right? But interestingly, Starbucks is a bank because of this particular point. And now you can think about embedded finance and how we are basically moving towards that, right? Have you ever read these three quotations? Software is eating the world, right? I think all of us must have heard this somewhere, that software is eating the world. This was back in 2011. Second is every company is a fintech. Every company, every organization, every hospital ecosystem, hospital or every shop even, is a fintech or a financial services company. This is a quotation which was, said by A16Z founder Mark Anderson in 2020. And the same guy spoke about software eating the world in 2011. Although another one is AI is eating the software. That's a new one. But yeah, that is also being now said in the market. So, but let's focus on every company is a fintech. Why are we calling every company a fintech now going forward, right? Remember Starbucks example? Starbucks, we never thought it could be a fintech or a bank, but the data says that it is bigger than 85% of the banks in the US. So every company on the planet who can enable financial services, payments, lending, insurance, or any sort of financial transaction is a fintech company. So just let it sink in that every single company can be a fintech company, which can enable payments, lending, or insurance on the platform. And in this room, we're sitting with people who, in their organizations, can enable all the three facilities in their organizations, in their companies, right? Think about other examples, right? Ola, Uber. Have you ever thought that Ola or Uber is also a fintech or like a bank? How? Because Ola gives loans to their driver partners. The business on giving loans to the driver partners is a very large part of Uber and Ola. Shopify. I think a lot of us know Shopify in this room. Shopify is a platform that enables e-commerce. Shopify gives working capital loans to brands or shop. We think Shopify as an e-commerce enabler, but Shopify is also a fintech. So now let's talk about healthcare a little bit. I'm being talking about other things which may or may not be of interest, but let's now talk about healthcare a little bit. So healthcare in the recent times has made extraordinary advances for the last 20, 25, 30 years. But still today, if you look at specifically the financial bit of healthcare, WHO says about 800 million people around the world spend 10% of their income on healthcare, and 100 million people are pushed into poverty every year because of lack of availability of finances. So that is the reality of healthcare. In spite of all the technological advances, we still lack in one particular area, and that is what I'm here to talk about today. Let's talk about Indian healthcare ecosystem. I think everybody in this room is more qualified to talk about Indian healthcare ecosystem than I am, but in my opinion, in financial services and healthcare ecosystem in India is broken. Why is it broken? So I think most of you understand this. In India, healthcare can be divided into two parts from the patient's perspective, right? Patients either pay out of pocket or are covered under insurance. Out-of-pocket expenses in India are 48%, which is about $144 billion. If you do the math, it essentially is about 12 lakhs, 13 lakhs crore rupees every year, which is paid out of pocket by the patients in India. Out-of-pocket payments alone is such a big problem in healthcare that it essentially enables a lot of liquidity problems, wherein the patients end up delaying their treatment and their care quality goes down for a toss. And I think all of us have experienced that and seen that. Patient comes to the doctor prescribes a surgery, patient says, "Sir, abhi to nahi karana hai. Give me time. क्या मैं अगले महीने करा सकता हूँ? क्या मैं अगले से अगले महीने करा सकता हूँ?" All because of lack of liquidity, lack of affordability, because patient is not able to pay for it from their pocket at that point of time. So that is a very big problem from the patient's perspective. Now, from the provider's perspective, we all know that is a problem because we are losing out on the quality of care, which is our core KPI. Second, revenue loss. We are losing revenue every single day because the patients are delaying their treatments, pushing out their treatments, going out and trying to find cheaper sources for the same thing. They try alternative medicine, they try whatnot, right? Just to avoid paying for it because of lack of financing available at that point of time. Second, as a hospital or a clinic ecosystem, all of you know that payment methods is so complicated. We receive payments from so many sources every single day, and reconciliation is a horrible, horrible challenge. I'm sure every month, end of the month, all of you face this problem. Ye reconciliation sheet kaise manage kare, right? They're accounting team sitting together, trying to manage the reconciliations, and this happens from smallest of the unit, which is a single doctor clinic, to largest of the hospitals. Everybody faces reconciliation problem day in, day out. रोज का यही problem है. End of the year, I have seen doctors having 300 pages giving to the CA. Sir, ये tax कर दो मेरा. मुझे नहीं पता, right? So that is the problem that this ecosystem faces. Just because the financial payments ecosystem is broken, there's no single source of truth which is available that can solve for liquidity issues and for payment reconciliation issues. Now, looking at insurance, I think all of you know insurance ecosystem much better than I do, but getting an insurance claim is another nightmare. The amount of time it takes, the amount of back and forth it takes, amount of documents it takes, again and again and again. And there, on the other side, there's a pressure from the patient that I want to go home. There's a pressure from the administrator that room khali karo, right? All of this together is another very large problem in this ecosystem where insurance becomes a huge challenge, right? So this is basically the multiple fronts in which financial services in the whole healthcare ecosystem is broken, and we can solve it. How we can solve it? Embedded finance is the key to solving the entire financial services in healthcare. Now, what is embedded finance? Let's understand embedded finance in very, very simple words, right? इसको बिल्कुल simplify कर देते हैं. For example, a kirana store, right? If I go to a kirana store and that kirana store gives me credit for the next 30 days, that is also an embedded finance product, right? Kirana store himself is taking that risk on me as a consumer and giving me that credit for 30 days and saying कि ठीक है आप 30 days तक लेते जाओ सामान, end of the month आपका मैं पूरा हिसाब कर दूंगा, right? So that is also an embedded finance piece, that he has embedded financial service into his core product. His core product is dal chawal bechna, but in that service he has embedded credit, and that credit essentially helps him increase his revenue, because now the consumer who is coming to that particular shop is able to buy more because he doesn't have to pay immediately. It adds to the convenience. Every time the consumer comes in, doesn't have to, open their UPI or open their wallet and pay for it. They can just write in a khata, and that khata can, end of the month, be closed by the shopkeeper, right? So that's the simplest example of embedded finance, and we in India have been doing embedded finance for years. ये नया fancy term निकल के आया है, but that embedded finance essentially is nothing but essentially embedding any financial service into your core business and expanding the business, improving consumers' convenience, increasing their affordability, making sure the financial information and the money flow happens in a very structured way. So integration of financial services like banking, lending, payments, and insurance into non-financial platforms. In healthcare, this means integrating these services into any software. You can integrate this in a medical software, you can integrate this in a telemedicine product, you can integrate this in a patient-facing app, you can integrate this in a hospital, you can integrate this in seamlessly in any offline setting also. A clinic can also integrate it in an offline setting by having a QR code which does not only payments, which also does lending, right? That you just scan the QR code and you get an instant loan and you can get your surgery done. So all of that is essentially embedded finance. Interestingly, if you look at the last line, healthcare is expected to account for 17% of embedded finance in the coming years. So it's a very, very large part in the business. Embedded finance is going to become very, very big, especially in healthcare. Why is embedded finance a game changer? I think by now you all must have understood why is it a game changer, why is it going to help us? One, it simplifies. Second, it streamlines. There are only two things, two S's, simplification and streamlining. It simplifies the entire process for all the stakeholders. It streamlines the entire process for all the stakeholders. Patient, of course, gain more control over their expenses, how they can make that particular expense. Providers can serve more people faster. For hospitals, for clinics, what is important is that the turnaround time is as short as possible. If I can if a patient is waiting for insurance, that's a problem, right? So turnaround should be very, very fast, and providers can actually move fast, ultimately growing their revenue. They can save on their revenue that is being missed by using embedded finance products. Insurers also benefit because of a lot of transparency, and that is a very big challenge in case of insurance today. Now, I'll give you a real-time example of embedded finance. And I think that will give you more sense about what embedded finance is and how we are also trying to solve. This is the example from my own company, CarePay. So our basically mission is to solve for financial services crisis in healthcare. How we are doing it is by addressing this $144 billion market of out-of-pocket expenses and building out different products on top of it. This is a real-time example of how we solve it, what are the products, and how the process really flows, right? So for example, let's imagine a patient coming to a clinic or a hospital or a lab, right? Patient has come in and said, the doctor has given them a surgery. The surgery is a low-cost a secondary surgery, which say, for example, costs about 40,000 rupees. That 40,000 rupees surgery is also a problem for a lot of patients. They don't have that capital at that point in their pocket, and they're like, kya kare? Insurance mein covered hai nahi, what can I do? Now, as a clinician, as a hospital, there's a very simple POS product, which is a QR code based product. I can ask the patient to scan the QR code, and everything else is digital and taken care of on a real-time basis, where what happens is patient gets access to credit for short time, 3 months or 6 months, immediately, and patient can go ahead and get the surgery done. So that is one of the real-time examples. बहुत सारे use cases है इसके अंदर. First use case I already talked about is like a treatment or procedure use case. Second use case is high-value drugs. Third is even for diagnostic labs, it works. Chronic disease management programs, it works. And wearables and medical devices is also a large use case where this works. So how does this help patients and doctors? I think this is something which we already discussed. Doctors can essentially increase their base of patients, because the patients who were not able to afford previously now can come in and afford a particular surgery or a procedure because of availability of capital now available. Let's take a couple of examples in this particular use case, right? This is an example of a US-based company, Cedar. Cedar essentially offers personalized billing for every single patient who comes into a hospital. Cedar is a 3.2 billion company founded in 2016, but ये थोड़ा US ecosystem है, so they work a little differently. But this company essentially has created a complete embedded finance piece which sits in any hospital's billing system and solves for all the payments for that particular billing system. Now, any billing that is done in that particular hospital goes via Cedar to multiple payments and automatically gets reconciled at one single system. So that's what they do. And that has helped about 3,000 hospitals in the US in the last about 5 years. In education also, a very beautiful product has been created. It's called Joro. Joro does something similar for education, where school fees payment is a problem, right? So here what happens is any parent who is going to the school and paying for the fees, they face this particular problem that every month they forget paying the fees, right? Or they have an affordability problem that, okay, how do I pay fees every month? So there, this company comes into picture and automates those payments. And this automation helps because now school doesn't have to collect every month. And can you relate this to a hospital setting, right? Because now imagine a patient who is coming in for 6 sittings for a particular treatment, right? Then for all those sittings, what happens is patient skips after 3 sittings. कि हो गया 3 हो गया, अब मैं नहीं जा रहा. This is very common in dermatology. This is very common in dental, and you know what I'm talking about, right? So here, adding a product like this helps in automating all the payments collection from that category of patient, and they will not skip their treatments. So that's very critical. Now, what are the challenges in this sort of a system? So there are multiple challenges to build a product like this. And I think all of us can work together to essentially build a product which can help the entire ecosystem per se. First is expertise. Healthcare and financial services are very, very different industries, and both need very different expertise to build a product that works in both the industries. So here, what is required is both the industries come together and build out a product. I come from a mix of both. I come from a healthcare background and have been building fintech products, but what I'm here for is also get experts who can help us in building this even further, where this expertise, if healthcare and fintech marries, then the real value is created. Second is distribution. Distribution in any embedded finance play is a challenge because distribution is expensive. To solve for distribution, you need to find out lower cost distribution channels which can help in creating that efficient distribution mechanism. Third is supply. Supply is also a very large challenge. Making the lenders or banks understand the hospital use case has not been easy. The data, they don't understand healthcare data. They don't see healthcare the way we see. So for them to understand this use case, specific data models have to be created. And this is where technology and AI comes into play, where you can create data models and essentially help help the lenders in understanding how the healthcare ecosystem works in terms of lending. What are the risks available? What is the risk profile for different categories of patients? How a complete ecosystem will look like in a healthcare play. This is how I envision this ecosystem. This is how we envision this ecosystem. So, a complete any healthcare organization would have multiple pieces of fintech offerings in their organization to build a complete unified ecosystem, right? First is lending. Lending is very critical because that's a low-hanging fruit. That's an important problem for every single patient who comes to you, and they are not able to convert. We are not able to convert those patients as hospitals because those patients don't have capital right now to pay for that surgery. Second is unified payments. Payments is also broken, and multiple payments are coming from multiple sources. So if the payments become unified, it becomes extremely easy for a hospital to manage the hospital. Third is insurance. From insurance perspective, if the data is moving from the same platform to insurance, the insurance also gets a lot of visibility and the tag becomes much lower. Last is commerce. If we add a commerce layer also onto it, which essentially enables higher revenue for the hospital as well, and it is added to the same platform, it becomes extremely easy. So from that perspective, these are the four important layers that any embedded finance play would have in a hospital setting, and that becomes a full stack play. So I hope you got a sense of it. I believe that this has been a little off the, it's a new topic. It's a very, very innovative field. So, but I hope you got how we are building this out and how embedded finance is going to change the healthcare ecosystem going forward for the better. Why does it matter for all of us sitting here? One, as I mentioned, it's a very new and emerging field. We should keep a track of this field. How this field grows will essentially change the way healthcare ecosystem works, especially on the fintech side. The care quality and the clinical aspects are going to remain the same, and you're doing that phenomenally well. But from the financial services side, this layer once built will enable a lot of patients who are today missing out or delaying their treatments to get into the ecosystem and get their treatments done on time. So I think that's about it. And any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
I think it's a wonderful idea to give loans to the patients who are coming to the hospital and they are actually in real trouble. But as a company, how do you assure that they repay back? Because in India, nobody pays. If you have to pay, they call politician and they call morcha. And if nothing happens, then they start vandalizing your hospital.
Exactly. So I think, sir, that is a very, very relevant question, and that is something hospitals always have good intention with respect to that the patient should get, the service done because they have come in for the service. And then if they essentially delay, if the hospital says, "ठीक है, अगले महीने पे कर देना," वो payment आती नहीं है, right? So how do we solve for this? And this is where technology comes into picture. We have built out a technology, and multiple other companies are building out this technology where payments essentially become automated. We know check bouncing is a criminal offense, right? Similar to check bouncing, there's something called eNACH that has come into play. eNACH is essentially an electronic auto debit mechanism where if eNACH is taken or at the point of giving out this loan completely digitally, and if a patient signs eNACH, which is a digital signature via an OTP, if the patient signs eNACH, then if they default on that eNACH, it is as good as a criminal offense, as a check bounce. So there, the collection responsibility is with the companies like us and the banks, right?
But then how many of them they don't pay, and what to do to them?
So again, collection responsibility, there are SOPs that banks have and the companies like us have, and they solve for it. 97-98% of the cases are solved by eNACH. Because ये eNACH बहुत नया technology है. eNACH क्या करता है? It is an auto debit system which enables auto debit of the bank account every month at that particular date, right?
Provided they have money in the bank, na?
If they don't have money, then it becomes like a check bounce. It's a check bounce होता है. If you don't have money, it's a check bounce, right? And check bounce has its own repercussions, where the patient essentially sent a notice that, okay, this check has been bounced or eNACH has been bounced, and that is automatically done by the bank. Because these are all, this is the whole the point to understand, which I also would like to highlight, is that whole fintech infrastructure layer has been built very recently by NPCI, National Payments Corporation of India. They have built this whole fintech infra layer, which has enabled multiple these features. One of them is eNash. eNash enables auto debit, and if auto debit doesn't happen, then it is a criminal offense for any of the borrower in any industry.
Hello. Hi, sir. This side. Sir, actually, continuity of this question, like I know 3 or 4 companies and a few of the colleagues who are running down this kind of like G money and all are in the market. But as the end version of it, like as sir mentioned, all the liabilities comes on the hospital. What you're talking is eNash, that those company, a third-party company, with the help of the NBFC,
Correct.
they are signing the MOU or the contract with the
Correct.
hospitals for the all lab. Yes, definitely the patient is, if they are not paying or they are becoming a defaulter, definitely their CIBIL score and everything will be affected. But ultimately that money will be rewarded by or would be credited from the hospital's deposit or a security deposit. This is the running model is ongoing, sir.
Yeah.
Is the continuity of the answer of this question of sir.
So very good point, actually. In our model, what we have done is we have essentially completely removed hospital from any responsibility. So we are, and that should not be a hospital responsibility. That's why embedded finance is so important as a product, right? Embedded finance doesn't mean that any business in their core business should take financial responsibility. They should just embed finance in their business using third parties, and those third parties should take responsibility. If a hospital has to take responsibility, it's not embedded finance anymore. Then the hospital becomes essentially,
Yes.
a financial company, which is not their job, right? So that is why technology is important. In our business, what we have done is we have made all the clinics, hospitals completely free of this responsibility. They don't have this responsibility at all. It is our responsibility and the NBFC responsibility to manage collections.
That's very nice of you, sir. Thank you, sir. And one more thing, I think it was not in your slide that most of the hospitals are using this third party or this embedded facility as their pseudo cashless facility also.
Correct.
As you know that, sir.
Correct.
Thank you.
So your company is a limited company, the liability is limited. Suppose someone will not pay, how your company is going to manage? So is it a listed company?
No, it's not a listed company. It's a private limited company.
Acha, private.
And it is following all the RBI guidelines for any of the liabilities with respect to any collections.
Do you issue these pre-granted credit limits and those cards to the population in general? I mean, so how does it work? Like in what cities is your presence currently available? And what about those places where you are not present? How can the hospitals in those places go about this?
Right. So with respect to the cards, we are not yet giving out any cards in the market. We are planning to launch that product in the next 6 months. But today, the QR code-based product is available, which is available in all the metro cities in the country and tier 1 cities.
So are these credits given on with some collateral?
No.
Without a collateral, you just...
So there are 3 models available. One, it's a completely zero collateral model where the credit is available to a patient on a zero collateral model. Second is against securities. So for example, a patient is having certain mutual funds or certain stocks, so they can essentially lien those stocks against this particular loan, because then they don't have to sell the stocks and get the cash out, but they can essentially lien them and take this loan to solve for their short-term needs. And third is just a completely zero, a payments collection product where neither the loan is given nor the stocks are given out, but collection is done as a service. So basically, for example, it's a 6-month procedure. Patient has to come every month. But what a hospital or a clinic needs is that every month the patient comes in and pays for it automatically, right? So collection as a service is built in. Patient signs a contract that I will come every month and I will pay for this every month, and collection is done automatically by us. So that hospital doesn't have to worry that patient will skip. The patient will come in.
Sir,
So these are three products
Yours is a
available.
non-banking finance, is it that sort of a?
Exactly.
Non-banking
So there are
finance.
three different categories. NBFCs do the first category of the lending product. Second is the loan against securities. That is done by a separate category of the companies. And third is the collection product. That is done by a separate category. In collection, NBFC is not required. It is an automated process using eNACH. So there are three different categories which are solved for.
Do you charge some like percentage on it? How your company is surviving?
Yeah, so we charge, there's a model where we charge the patient, and there's a model where we charge the clinic or the hospital.
Also, since you have equated this to a dishonor of a check,
Right.
do all provisions then of, let's say, negotiable instruments apply to your
Yes.
model?
As per the RBI guidelines, it is exactly similar to the dishonor of the check, so all the provisions apply there.
And how do you embed it? Is there an ERP or a...
Yes,
There's an
so there
ERP?
are APIs available which can be directly embedded into the software, else there is an offline play also. You can put in a QR code, and that QR code essentially enables all the procedures.
So all aspects, including the taxes applicable, are all integrated in this
Everything
model?
is integrated, yes.
And does the client sign up any agreement when he is...
Yes,
There's an agreement in place in which
Yes.
all these disclosures are made, that in the event of default and all, this is the provision.
Exactly. So there's a loan agreement in case of lending, which is signed using, again, e-signing procedure, which is Aadhaar-based e-signing.
Right.
That is happening on the process. So everything is done as per the RBI guidelines, right? So it's compulsory to sign a lending agreement whenever you go for any loan.
And what is the extent of penetration of this model in terms of healthcare? I mean, how many?
So this is a very new and growing field, ma'am. So it's just coming up right now and growing very, very aggressively. So we essentially tried it out in 4 cities a couple of months ago, and now we have launched a few months back. So our experiment was in 4 cities for 30 days, and it was so interesting that with just 350 clinics in 4 cities, we were able to get about 700, 800 patients to get a request for loans in just 4 weeks. So we were also not expecting that sort of a response from the market, from patients and doctors both. And once we got that, then we started building this out at scale. So today we are building it at scale, and the plan is in the next 1 year, all these products that I'm talking about will be out, including that product that gentleman was talking about, the card product and everything. So all of those products will be out in the market.
Okay, thank you.
सर आपने बोला थर्ड पार्टी सब कलेक्शन करेगी बराबर?
Yes.
तो सर मैंने जो अभी वर्किंग देखा है फॉर बैंक्स जो कार लोन लेते हैं, टेलीविज़न जो कुछ भी लोन लेते हैं, तो 2-3 कंपनीज का मैंने वर्किंग देखा है, तो उनका भी नहीं हो रहा है कलेक्शन. और आपको सर बजाज फाइनेंस का वर्किंग पता होगा, तो फिलहाल बजाज फाइनेंस डायरेक्टली हॉस्पिटल को मतलब जो ऑपरेशंस वगैरह रहेगा तो उसके लिए डायरेक्टली 21 दिन में हॉस्पिटल को पे आउट कर देते हैं वो, और बाकी का पेशेंट से वो मंथली इंस्टॉलमेंट में ले लेते हैं. तो फिर वो एक इजी वे आउट है, लेकिन उनको भी डिफ़िकल्ट जा रहा है क्योंकि लोन जो ऑपरेशंस के लिए चाहिए 2 लाख का समझ लो आप ऑपरेशन करना है, 2 लाख का लोन बजाज फाइनेंस रेडी है फाइनेंस करने के लिए ऑन स्पॉट. बस हॉस्पिटल को डॉक्यूमेंट भेजना है उनको, और वहाँ से उनके डॉक्टर की टीम अप्रूवल करके दे देती है, और 21 दिन में हॉस्पिटल का कुछ नुकसान नहीं होता है. हॉस्पिटल, फार्मेसी एंड इवन लैब का पैसा बजाज फाइनेंस से आ जाता है. तो सर उसमें भी डिफ़िकल्ट हो रहा है उनको कोप अप करने में. तो आप तो डायरेक्टली मतलब जो सिस्टम बता रहे हैं वो कितनी इफेक्टिव होगी?
I think your question is valid, but there are different models in the market. So with respect to Bajaj Finance, they have done a really good job. Our model is a little different. We do real-time disbursal to the doctor or the clinic hospital. So हम लोग day 1 पे disbursal कर देते हैं, and collection we handle completely. And if you go little deeper into financial services, what happens is there are risks associated with, and risk analysis is a completely separate field. So you can analyze risk basis the data that you collect. So what we do is we are doing very smart data collection. So we collect data of that particular patient or borrower from different sources, and we are able to do risk analysis, and that is our strength. हम लोग AI use करके data analyze करते हैं from multiple sources. So we have a lot of understanding and access to the patient's credit risk, and that credit risk defines कि collection हो पाएगा कि नहीं हो पाएगा, right? Because we also don't want our NPAs to go high, non-performing assets to go high. So we make sure that they don't go high by doing the right analysis, by doing credit risk.
I'm asking from the perspective of a patient. Like when somebody is admitted in hospital, the first concern is पैसा कहाँ से लाएंगे,
Correct.
right? And during the billing, the first question is, sir, do you have insurance, right? And let me give you a simple example. I recently delivered a baby, and in one of the premium maternity hospitals, and the package was like 2 nights, 3 days, kind of a honeymoon package for me. So, but when I go through the billing, right, there were so many things that was really not required. For example, there was a baby wash soap was given, which was 800 rupees MRP at MRP. And I was in hospital for 2 days. The soap was used for only first day when I delivered. And the second day they said, no, only wipe the baby until the cord, this falls. What is it called? Umbilical cord falls, right? It is not even used. And as a patient or as a person who is paying, right? Don't you think it's a too much of billing, or and maybe people how the patient's interest is protected, so that they are not charged more, because anyways pay karenge nahi pay karenge, so it is like a a fault. Right? How interest of a patient as a common person walking in the hospital is protected in this case? Yes. Are there a lot of unnecessary billing is done? How do you protect patient from this?
So ma'am, right now we don't have a solution to do that. We are basically focused on creating the whole embedded finance layer in the hospitals to help patients getting more access and affordability. But this particular problem, though very interesting, not under my purview, so can't comment on that.
That was a very informative session. The session has given us much greater understanding of the role of the fintech companies in healthcare system. Thank you, sir.
Now I request Dr. Parimala Veluvalli, Director, Symbiosis School of Online and Digital Learning, to felicitate Mr. Gaurav Gupta.